Unbroken, the podcast with Madeline Black. Healing through storytelling.
Hello and welcome to Unbroken, the podcast with me, Madeline Black. I have been collecting stories from people that I've met along my journey, stories of people that have triumphed after adversity and have not just bounced back, but have bounced forward in life, and they are now making a difference to other people. You know, I really believe that a story heard at the right time has the ability to transform a life for somebody, and that none of us are really broken beyond repair. Today's guest is Mary Storrie. On the 28th of December 2003, Mary Storrie, her husband Graham, and their 3 children went to a Christmas gathering hosted by close friends. That evening changed their lives irrevocably when Rosie May, their only daughter, was brutally murdered by a 17-year-old boy she knew. Rosie May was 10 years old. On the first anniversary of her death, Mary stood with her family on the shore of the Indian Ocean when the 2004 Asian tsunami struck. The day before, they had planted a tiny palm tree in memory of Rosie May. In the aftermath of the tsunami, they discovered the sapling standing strong amidst the debris. This poignant moment was the inspiration for the Rosie May Foundation. Born in Sri Lanka, it aimed to support and nurture children in crisis, especially girls, giving them a more hopeful future, one that Rosie May was tragically denied forever. The Rosie May Foundation is a registered UK charity, and Mary has worked tirelessly to create a living legacy for her beautiful daughter, growing organically from humble beginnings at the kitchen table to an international charity. Welcome, Mary, to Unbroken, and it's lovely to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Madeline. Lovely to be invited. Thank you.
The very first question is really the question that I ask everyone, is that what does the word unbroken mean to you?
Yeah, I really actually like this word because to me, it's a positive word. And it actually implies that actually something, and I think this is exactly what you said a few minutes ago, was actually never broken. So for me, that word means resilience and it means growth.
Yeah, and you have done that in buckets. Before we go back to that night, can you tell me what Rosie May was like as a little girl in her 10 years?
Yeah, she was very outgoing. She loved an audience. Her passion was dance. Mm-hmm. So, and I will say this because I'm a parent, and obviously every parent is biased, but when you went to see her perform on the stage, your eyes were drawn to her like a magnet. She had that ability to shine, and she had that kind of infectious kind of appeal. And
but it wasn't just your opinion, because she won a place, didn't she, at the English Ballet School?
Yes, she did. She auditioned and she got selected, for one of the Royal Ballet Youth productions, yes. And she also had just been selected for first professional pantomime, which was at Christmas. That was what she was doing at the time, yeah.
So can you take me back to the night when you were at your friend's party with your family, which should have been, I guess, the safest place for all of you?
Absolutely. I mean, our story is every parent's nightmare because of that very reason. We were going out somewhere where we knew everybody, we knew every adult, we knew every child, we knew the location. We actually weren't there for long. So it should have been as you say, the safest place in the world. However, in the time that Rosie May was not sighted, which was a very short time.
I believe it was only something like 6 minutes that she wasn't found
absolutely,
for.
where there were no sightings of her from various guests that were there at the gathering. So that was the missing time. She was brutally murdered by a 17-year-old boy that she knew. And everyone was shocked to the core. Even the police had no experience of this. And in that situation, it was unfathomable because, you would be pushed to be able to steal somebody's wallet in that situation with people, in other rooms and around.
And you also know that, or you have great feelings that his intention was sexual, because her clothing was also missing when her body was
Yes,
found.
it was definitely predatory. And that was identified at the murder trial. The perpetrator is now on the at-risk register.
His recent appeal was denied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And how did you feel when you found out after the trial that actually this was not a one-off for him? Not that he had murdered before, but he had attacked and preyed on other young girls before.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously an escalation of events. And clearly, had we have had that information, we would have had Rosie May nowhere near.
Yeah.
Nowhere near. So it was absolutely devastating to find out that he had a past history, particularly when you feel these are people that you know, and these are people, that are your friends.
And how does a family begin to recover from something like that? Because I know you have 2 older boys as well, don't you?
Yeah, obviously it takes a long time, and do you ever recover fully? Probably not. I don't think it's actually possible to fully recover. However, one begins to adapt. I prefer that kind of word, really. To adapt to what it becomes the new normal or your new life, because it's a different life to the life that you had before, that we had as a family of 5. It then becomes a different life.
Yes.
And yeah, so, I think it's just every day, not even every day, initially it's, and I'm sure, you resonate with this as well. It's every minute of the day, step at a time, every hour of the day, every week, and I think, it's just tiny steps and 100 back. And, but I think key is support. And I think key is to be able to talk. And in our situation, unlike your situation, we were able to do that. And actually that was what the foundation did for us as well. It enabled us to be able to talk about our story, Rosie May, and create this legacy. And because there is a huge reluctance even now to talk about not only children, I guess, when they die, but, kind of bereavement in general. People don't know what to say, so they avoid it. But when it's a child, then that's heightened. And then when it's murder, it's heightened.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not
at the top of the scale.
It's not just a child who died, she died.
Yeah, exactly. And people, people don't know what to say. And every parent has been in that situation that we were in that night. Every parent has been to a gathering with people they know. They get there, the kids go off, you know, they go off with their friends, they go off and play upstairs, you know, parents stay downstairs, have a chat with other parents, have a drink. Everybody's done it. And I think that was what resonated with parents for us and our story. This wasn't a stranger that jumped out of the bushes, you know, that nobody knew. And I think, you know, I absolutely think that's what resonated. So parents look at us and say, well, actually,
could be me. And for me, it resonates with me because my eldest daughter, Anna, is literally 4 days younger than Rosie May. So she was born on the 13th of May and Rosie May was just the 9th of May. So I look at her and you must wonder as well, what would Rosie May be doing now if she was 27?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we're still in touch with her friends who, you know, are that age. But I think for us, Rosie May will be forever 10.
She will be. And so the foundation started really quite quickly after she had been murdered, because you went away, as we said in the bio, to Sri Lanka as a family to try to group, I imagine, and do some healing. And then yet another tragedy. You were caught up in the tsunami.
Yes. Absolutely. And, you know, the irony of that is that we actually decided to go to Southeast Asia because we wanted to escape the horrific recollections of the year before and the trauma of the year before, and ended up in a, you know, one of the greatest natural disasters that, you know, that the world has seen.
And how were you impacted by this tsunami? What happened to you and your family?
Well, we were actually very lucky because we were on an island off the Sri Lankan coast. So, it was small, not many people, very little infrastructure, and we had warning because it hit the Sri Lankan coastline before it hit the island. So, so we consider ourselves very lucky, and it was quite a surreal experience. And you know, we never felt panicked, or we just felt really calm throughout the whole experience. And while this panic was obviously going on around us, and I think that was, I like to think that was because, you know, we felt we were safe. We felt that Rosie May was watching over us. And
well, the story of the palm tree is just incredible, isn't it? Because we've all seen the pictures of buildings and boats and everything washed up, and this tiny little sapling survived. So it feels like she was there with you in that moment.
Absolutely. You know, we planted it the day before on Christmas Day.
So it wasn't even rooted very well. It's just planted the day before.
Not at all. And we just assumed after, you know, the wave, the two waves, actually, it was two waves, that it wouldn't be there. And it was. And, you know, there it was, absolutely untouched. And, you know, I think that was the moment, you know, the inspirational moment that I had in terms of creating a legacy for Rosie May.
And it was born in Sri Lanka then, the Rosie May Foundation.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit, you know, what are its aims? Because I've looked at it and you actually do lots of different things.
We do. We do. I mean, our overall aim is obviously to create, to help to create better futures, for more hopeful futures for children, especially girls. However, that said, if you are looking at development in terms of a holistic approach, you can't obviously just focus solely on that child because that child has a family.
Yeah.
So, obviously we encompass, the family as well. So, because if a child's in crisis, the family's in crisis. It's not just the child that's in crisis for whatever reason. So it's the whole picture. So that widens, obviously our scope. But obviously we do have a criteria, because we have to have a criteria, because, you can't help everybody. So that
I imagine you would like to help everybody as well.
Oh, of course I would. So we help families who are in crisis and who are at risk of being separated from their children. So it's all about essentially keeping families together.
But initially, I believe that you did help a lot of young girls that were orphaned because of the tsunami.
We did, and we still do. Our first program was a children's home, and those children had been made parentless by the tsunami. However, the longer we worked in the field, because of course this was all new to us, we're not, development experts.
You have gone on and studied it though, haven't you?
Exactly. Yes. And that was the reason, that obviously, I did that, because I felt that I needed to have that underpinning knowledge to be able to do what I do and do it properly. And so with the children at the home, we realized quite quickly that actually most of these children, these girls, had got a living family member, which was mostly a single parent mum. So they actually weren't orphans in the true sense of the word, because I think the word orphan is very misleading. People assume that children have been abandoned, they're not wanted, they've got not a soul in the world, and it's actually not the case. And actually, this was not just the Rosie May home. This is a phenomena to every children's home in globally, actually. And globally, there are 80 million children in residential facilities who actually 80% of them have one living parent.
That is a big number, 80 million.
Exactly. So we then started to question, well, why are they here? If they've got a mum, why are they here? And the reason mostly, and I'm generalizing here, but mainly was poverty. What we also discovered was they were in the system. It was very difficult to get them out of the system. Even if the mothers had got themselves back to a position where they could manage financially to care for their children, it was very difficult to get them out. And of course, communications break down very quickly. When a child's put into residential care, that bond breaks down very quickly. Mum can't afford the bus fare to get to the home to see them on a regular basis. Things break down very quickly. So what often happens is these children then come out of the other side of institutionalized care at 18 with no bond, no connection to their family anymore. They're like strangers. So outcomes obviously are not good. So we decided to start, this led to our second project, which was to try and then get to the root cause of the problem. So to work on the ground, at grassroots level, and try and get to those women before they had to make that absolutely heartbreaking decision of having to give their children to an orphanage. Because A, they didn't want to give their children to an orphanage, and B, if you asked any of the girls at the Rosie May home where they would rather be, they will all tell you they would rather be with their mum, knowing.
As a mum, I can't imagine a more difficult decision to make. That
absolutely.
You can't afford to keep your child. You have to give your child away, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. And I've spoken to mums, and this is simplifying it, but I've spoken to mums who have put their children into an orphanage because they couldn't afford a pair of school shoes for their children. Because although education is free, children have to go in a pair of shoes to school. It's so simple. I mean, that is so simple. But, if you have, a social worker that says to you, well, the best thing you can do is put your child into a children's home, and they can have 3 meals a day and they'll get a good education. And at the end of that, they'll come home, they'll be the breadwinner. Do you know what? If I was in their situation,
absolutely,
I'd probably do the same.
No, I wasn't judging it. I was just saying, what an impossible decision to make.
But in reality, of course,
we don't have many choices. So you are really giving them more choices. Yeah,
exactly.
Amazing, isn't it?
Exactly.
And there's also an education line as well that you do as well. You help girls within the secondary school system.
Yeah, in Nepal, we also work in Nepal, and we found ourselves there 6 months after the 2015 earthquakes. Mm-hmm. Never travel with us, Madeline. That's
I didn't like to say this, but it does. Yeah, not looking good, is it?
I never invite you anywhere to come away with me. Just say no.
You were there when the earthquake happened.
No. But 6 months afterwards, because we had arranged a fundraising trek in the Himalayas to raise money for Sri Lanka.
I've seen you and Graham have gone off doing all these amazing events to raise money.
That's
so
right.
Not only do you have this fantastic foundation, you're also fundraisers as well.
We do.
As well as being the CEO of it. And yeah, you juggle many balls in the air, really.
Oh, yeah. And I have just been awarded the Pride of Britain Best Fundraiser of the Year.
It's not just the Pride of Britain. There's actually been quite modest. There's actually quite a few things that you have won and have been awarded from different universities. And yeah, but it's a recognition of all of this work that you're doing and all the lives that you must be not just touching, but changing.
Well, it's a huge ripple effect, isn't it? Yeah. And, I think you don't really grasp how far that ripple goes, actually, because as you say, it is huge, from that one family. Yeah, and one school, it
feels like in some way that this is keeping Rosie May's name alive as well. This is her living legacy, really, that you have established for her.
We think so.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful. I also saw, obviously now when we're recording this, we're in COVID time, so you can't be travelling anywhere. But in the UK, you have a little pink tuk-tuk, which is called Rosie. Yes, and you've
Rosie, the little pink tuk-tuk.
It's very cute, and you've been delivering food to people that have been isolating or shielding and can't get out. And I've watched some beautiful videos of people that were so appreciative of their chips and their fish and chips that was getting delivered. When did you get the little? Yeah, when did you get the little tuk-tuk?
Well, we had Rosie, the little pink tuk-tuk, actually in the first place to raise awareness of our program one of our programs in Sri Lanka, which is to train the first women drivers to drive tuk-tuks as taxis for other women and children. The UNFPA in Sri Lanka did a study in 2015, which revealed that over 90% of women who use public transport in Sri Lanka have been sexually harassed at any one time. And only 6% of those women ever report that harassment.
So 90% have been assaulted. And
over 90%.
And there's huge numbers of incidents and such little numbers of reporting. And if they do report it, is it because it's not taken seriously, nothing is done about it?
Not necessarily, no. It's not reported because it's kind of become normalised.
Which is shocking.
Very crowded public transport. That's what happens. So we've done a lot of work around education, working with alongside the local police with education, to try and get women to understand that actually it's not acceptable for a guy to pretend to fall asleep on your shoulder so that he can, look down your cleavage, or for him to sit with his hand, on your leg. And then obviously to the full range, that is, sexual harassment. So we've done a lot of education around that. And so the Think Pink, we call it, tuk-tuk program was started in Sri Lanka because tuk-tuks are the most popular mode of transport.
Yes,
They're
I've been in
affordable.
them.
Yeah, they're
So
affordable.
they are driven by women for women and children.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
Provide not only a robust income for the single parent mum so that she can lift herself out of poverty, but also to give safe journeys to women and children to work and school.
And what's happening with them now in Corona? Are the tuk-tuks operational or?
So during lockdown, public transport was stopped.
Yeah.
So they were not allowed to be on the roads, which caused many problems because obviously that stopped income. So we set up an emergency fund appeal to be able to get emergency food rations to these families. So they managed during lockdown. It was absolutely desperate. Our project manager had women calling her saying that they would rather die of COVID than die of hunger. Themselves and their families.
It's so hard to hear, though, isn't it?
Children crying in the background. Yeah, it was desperate.
And you must have felt so helpless when you heard that, or the manager over there as well.
Yeah, because lockdown here, and again, I am generalising, but lockdown here is a very, very different experience to lockdown, when you're living in poverty.
Absolutely. But I think here in the UK, if your situation was tough before it got tougher in lockdown, I recognise I have enough room, I have enough food, I'm really okay. But for some people, domestic abuse, we know the numbers soared. Within 3 weeks, 16 women, 2 of them were children, were murdered by their partners in the UK. Yeah,
domestic violence, exactly.
Huge. So if you're living in poverty to start with, it's just going to be very worse. Yeah,
and people, I think the thing is with the pandemic, the global pandemic, there's this kind of thought that we're all in the same boat. Well, actually we're not.
We might all be in the same sea, but I think we're all in different types of boats.
Exactly.
Some are on a raft, some are on a cruise liner, some are in a little dinghy themselves, but absolutely all different types of boats.
Yeah. But now they are getting back on the road, providing COVID-safe journeys, obviously, and they are slowly getting back to some sort of normal, whatever that is going to look like. However, it will be a long journey, as it will be for a lot of people, and a challenging one.
And I imagine it must be frustrating for you now because you can't go out and visit. You used to go out quite a lot and visit, or set up homes and all the many projects.
Yeah, so we turned our focus. So we had this, going back to the Rosie, the little pink tuk-tuk. So obviously when events were cancelled, when they dropped off the calendar, she was sitting idle because there were no events to go to. So we decided to pivot very quickly and put her to good use in our own local community, because we were aware that particularly very small independent, sole traders were actually really struggling to manage deliveries. And so we offered our services. We developed a network of volunteers, people that were furloughed at the time and who just wanted to feel useful in the community. They wanted to feel that they could help in some way. So we developed this network of volunteers and approached local businesses and started taking essential supplies initially. Tony the Eggman, we did all we went all over for Tony the Eggman, our local pharmacist, and in fact we still help with his deliveries now. But what we realized very, very quickly, that actually it wasn't about what we were delivering, it was actually about that human interaction. It was about, we say, delivering smiles. And the tuk-tuk in itself, it's pink, it's cute, it's got a smiley logo on. You can't help but smiling when you see it. So that's one thing. And then, the volunteer, and where we differed from, your regular deliveries that would have been going to people, is that our volunteers made the time to actually have that doorstep interaction. And for many people, we were the only people that they were seeing. So that became very apparent very, very quickly. So fast forward to beyond lockdown, we decided that service actually was still very much needed, because a lot of people that were isolating for whatever reason actually were still really, really anxious about going out, So we developed an initiative called Cake and Chat. So basically we have a group of volunteer bakers. They make these beautiful cupcakes, and we take them to, a person that is, socially isolated, and we deliver them a cake, and, we just have a little chat. And obviously when it was warmer, they might get a chair out in the garden and 2 meters away, now obviously they're not going to sit outside in freezing cold. So, it's gone back to kind of doorstep, but, it is still very much needed. And, it's about
isolation, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
People. But what I love about the tuk-tuk, because people will then know it's from the Rosie May. Why is it so important for you to still have the Rosie May Foundation? I actually know that Rosie, the little pink tuk-tuk, has actually, I would go as far as saying, saved our charity during this crisis, because as a small charity, and this applies to a lot of small charities, we don't qualify for a lot of grants and funding that the bigger charities do. So the majority of our income, our fundraising, was raised through events that we put on ourselves. And those are the things that were no more. So what it did for us is it kept our profile raised in our local community. And I think there's probably not one person now that doesn't know who the Rosie May Foundation is locally. And once they know about the Rosie May Foundation, then they know about Rosie May.
Exactly, they know about Rosie May, they know about what we're doing overseas. And obviously, that leads on to donations. Not that was the reason why we did it in the first place, but it does convert into donations, because people feel that they want to give back to us when we were able to help them.
But I get a sense it's a twofold thing, that your organisation, it's a way for you to keep Rosie May's name alive, but it's also a way to give back to other people.
Absolutely.
So how can people find out more about the foundation? Do you have a website?
Yes, we have a website, rosiemay.com. Really easy.
It is really easy.
And everything is on there. And we recognise that, particularly in the climate that we're in now, everybody can give if they want to give, but that giving is in different ways. Some people can give financially, and that's what they want to do. Some people can give time. Some people can give professional skills. There's many ways of giving. It's not just about money.
Organized.
Yeah. So and I also think that because we're a small charity, we're all about the personal, and so we know all of our donors. We know who they are. I shouldn't say all of them, but most of them we know, because we make sure we do know. And we have that complete transparency, which I think, again, people like. People need to be able to see exactly where the money is going that they are giving. I think that is so important for people.
Well, they just take a few moments to watch some of the videos and they see the difference it's making in these girls' lives, and they will just see that they've transformed their life. So just before we nearly finish up, I'd like to ask you if you have any tips that you could give to other people that really helped you to stay unbroken in your journey.
I think, well, it's very simple for me, actually. I would say two tips. The first one, which I think relates very much to the early days, the darkest days, is just to take every step at a time. Everything you do is an achievement.
Yeah.
That might be just getting out of bed and making your bed, which again is always one of my tips. Make your bed every day.
Sets up your day, doesn't it?
It sets your intentions for the day, and that one small thing then leads on to other things. And if you do have the worst day ever, you've got a lovely made bed to get back into if you need to, which I think is always more appealing than a messy bed. But that's just a simple thing. And I think my biggest tip would be to try and take yourself out of your comfort zone every day. Now, for me, that could have been just walking down the road when people were crossing the other side of the road to avoid speaking to me. That kind of thing.
Because they didn't know what to say to you.
Exactly. So for me to just do that, it was a massive thing to do. So at whatever level you're at, to push yourself, to take yourself out of your comfort zone, then develops your growth. We talk about, developing a growth mindset, but you have to push yourself to take yourself out of that comfort zone. And, it still applies to, and I'm sure you're the same, Madeline, I think that applies forever, for the rest of your life. And the women in Sri Lanka, every day they get into that tuk-tuk and switch the engine on. They're having to take themselves out of that comfort zone to do that because they're working in a man's world.
Absolutely. But what's is that?
Yeah. So, I think that would be my, to stay unbroken. I think, you need to take yourself out of your comfort zone. # every damn day.
But what's beautiful is that you have done that journey and now you are helping other women to step out of their comfort zone, because there is a saying that says a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. So we only
exactly.
We push ourselves.
That's right.
So
exactly.
Mary, I would just like to thank you so much for coming along onto my podcast show, Unbroken. It's been really good speaking to you, and just fantastic work that you're doing. It's amazing the lives that you are changing. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thank you for inviting me again, Madeline.
You're welcome.
Unbroken, the podcast, with Madeline Black, playing now on all the main platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher for Android, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and here. Play Unbroken, the podcast, with Madeline Black.